thoughts that came through when I was operating in this place of fear and low vibration were very interesting. They were incredibly powerful, incredibly negative, and I would even go as far as to say that they weren't even mine. There was something else that was coming through, something far more dark that was coming through. And it was so dark, I was able to actually recognize that it wasn't mine, that they weren't my thoughts. It was almost like a spiritual warfare, to be honest. And actually, that really allowed me to catch what was kind of going on, to kind of almost pull myself out, because they were so intrusive. I was like, whoa, that is not me. This isn't who I am. Like, these thoughts, it made me want to get small. It made me want to quit. It was coming up with all these thoughts, and it was really fascinating to see it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Lost and Found podcast. And today I am rejoined by the second ever guest of the show, Justin Lovato. And I did not expect the conversation to go how it did. Justin got into a crazy story, and I actually don't want to spoil it by saying what it is, but ultimately, he really just shared the lessons that he teaches and really embodies to navigate his way through this thing that happens, and really just showed what it is to be the thing that we talk about. You know, something that I mentioned on there is that the understanding of an idea doesn't cover the cost of admission into a higher level of consciousness. We've actually got to be it. We've actually got to embody the thing that we're talking about. And it's something that I personally in my life try to commit to as much as I can. And it's something that I really recognize in Justin. So it's a beautiful story, as well as a beautiful example of how to live the things that we talk about around presence, awareness, and love to overcome the things that can happen in our lives. So I really hope you enjoy this. Now, before we jump into it, two things. One, I'm going to ask, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, because it really helps out the channel. Two, one of the things that I don't talk about a whole lot on the podcast is the coaching and the guidance that I offer. And it's actually my primary mission and purpose in life. Now, I've just had a few more spots become available. And if you are called to or interested in a deeper path of self-exploration and really experiencing quantum leaps and shifts in inner transformation, then I'd like to invite you to schedule a free call where we can dive into some of the things that might be going on for you right now, and to explore what coaching or guidance could look like if you feel a resonance with me. The way in which I go around my practice, which I feel is really unique to me, does offer huge quantum shifts in the people that I have the honor of working with, and co-creating the life that they truly desire, that feels aligned with the deepest essence of who they are, and really allows this sense of freedom to live life in a way that ultimately just feels right. So if that calls to you, then hit the link in the description and you can book one of those sessions for free. And finally, if you want to find Justin, the links are also going to be there for him, for the coaching that he offers, his program in Nirvana Mind Body. All right, that's it from me. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the episode. It's the return of Justin Lovato. Good to have you back, brother.
Good to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it feels like it was almost forever ago. When you last came on, I feel like so much has happened this year. And of course, you were just the second guest, and really from me starting on the journey then, and what's happened, it's been wild. So yeah, looking forward to catching up and seeing what's alive for you as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me back on. Yeah, time has really gone by this year. I feel like this year has been quick, but also timeless in its same sense. It's been a very powerful year, I would say, for a lot of growth for myself. So yeah, lots of new things to definitely get into.
Yeah, amazing. So what's been going on for you? What's kind of most alive at the minute for you?
I would say some pretty powerful transitions within my company and my business. Some big things definitely happened. I've yet to actually even talk about on my own personal social media and any other podcast for that matter. It was interesting. I kind of like just dive right into some powerful things that kind of happened. First time talking about this, by the way, which is kind of neat.
Amazing.
So yeah. So about 4 months back, I would say, an individual reached out to work with me during breath work and some plant medicine stuff. It was a young woman who came to my house, and she worked with me for 4 days with breath work and meditation and plant medicine. Um, this individual came to my home, spent some quality time, learned a lot about them in that 4 days, and they became really curious about my vision for Nirvana. Where was it heading? What was it doing at this point? At this time, I just kind of linked up with Jake at that time, working together with Nirvana. And me and him were obviously going into a direction of growth. And, I have a lot of what I see with my company and where it's headed kind of written on my fridge for not all to see, but for me to do my practices. I kind of read them, I see them, I go through them to keep them clear in my manifestations and my vision as I go through this experience. And this person definitely had access to seeing my lifestyle. She spent some quality time with me and became really curious about Nirvana, its business adventures, and where we were heading. So I started breaking down my vision, where I saw it going and whatnot. She asked how I'm kind of getting there. I kind of mentioned, we're at a slow grind, but it's doing really well. And she then asked if we ever looked into possibly getting any type of investor or what have you. And I mentioned that my business partner at the time said we should start looking into possibly what they call angel donors or angel investors. She seemed pretty intrigued by that comment. That she then mentioned that she knew somebody that was an angel investor. She knew people that were angel investors, angel donors, and that she could set up a meeting of some sort to introduce me. So I found this very exciting, of course. But just within a few moments of us speaking, she then revealed that she was actually one of these angels investors, angel donors, which was very exciting. She revealed that she was born into some substantial wealth and that she's been looking for someone to invest in for quite some time. When it came to business, that she aligned with what we were doing, where Nirvana was heading. It moved very, very quickly at this point. At the time, we were actually, Jake and myself, we were kind of in a space where we could start hiring an operations manager to help us with certain things, but nothing along the lines of taking on a full-on employee at this time. Just paying somebody a few hours a day to do some work for us. We were doing the same thing with our web designer and marketer. We were in no position to take him on full-time as an employee, and the same thing with our videographer. But we worked with these three specific people in really wonderful ways. And we saw a vision down the road to have them be on part of Nirvana's team at some point. So I expressed all of this to this now person who's very much interested in being an investor for Nirvana Mind and Body. As I mentioned, though, this moved very, very quickly. I hit up Jake saying, like, hey, like this person is really interested in being an investor for us with everything, with absolutely everything when it came down to not only bringing on the employees, but also my ideas with creating a Nirvana house here in Austin, and also the land space to have a larger facility, a larger sanctuary. Essentially, this person came forward letting us know that they were financially backing us in every way possible, and reached out to these three other individuals, offered them full-time jobs, which was really exciting. Salaries included. I had her connect with my financial advisor as well, just to get things going as far as getting all this kind of officially started. This individual also was interested in fully backing the purchase of the Nirvana house. So then we started talking with a realtor, and we're looking at locations all throughout Austin and also land at this point. So again, moving very, very quickly. We were then also treated to profound, like extravagant dinners as a group, as a team, advances in some other ways when it came to our events that we were hosting. What I'm getting to is that we were met with a con artist about 4 months ago. And yeah, it's so this all happened in such a powerful way, essentially this love bombing phase. And this date that was set for finances to finally be coming through for payroll kept getting pushed back. And it became a really unique situation. Once that started happening, I became kind of concerned what was happening. It was hard to catch because of the amount of love bombing with finances was also there. So we really didn't question if it was legit or not, because she was working with my financial advisor and he thought everything looked good. She was working with the realtor as well, and they thought everything looked good. Um, so she was good at what she does. And the way that she's able to operate from my perspective was the ability to work, I think, multiple people and then use their money to essentially love bomb the next group of people. And so she was putting up money. She put up money to take us out as a team to celebrate what this was happening, all this stuff that was happening. Um, there was even a few events that she came forward and says, "Hey, I think we should do bigger events," and paid for those events, those locations that cost upward around $7,000 to rent for that space. And then also took our camera guy and bought him like the best type of equipment that you could buy, $13,000 worth of camera equipment, to really, yeah. So, we're like, okay, this is legit. And these things are actually happening. It was, it was actually more than winning the lottery, I would say. And,
Yeah.
yeah. Like to just, it was such a powerful fast tracking. Like she had these people, quit their jobs.
Oof.
She had these individuals quit their jobs. And then we had a specific date for payroll to be starting. And so once that date came and payroll didn't come, I reached out just to see. And she gave a pretty valid excuse. She just said, "Hey, Kay, I've never done anything like this as far as investing in people. And I wasn't aware that it takes some time for the trust to approve certain things." And I talked to my financial advisor. He goes, "That actually makes a lot of sense, or else people would just spend this money, this deep money." She said she belonged to an oil family, and she was inherited this powerful money. And so then we said, okay, and I hit up my team. I'm like, "Are you guys good for another 2 weeks?" She said, "It'll be 2 more weeks until payroll can start and everything will be good." And everybody's like, "Yeah, we're good." Up until this point as well, because we were holding bigger events, we needed more equipment. We needed certain things to keep things kind of moving going forward. And so I let her know about this. And so she had me keep track of things that I was purchasing at this time at a faster rate than I would have if it wasn't for her being an investor.
Mm.
So, yeah, so I was doing that. I was also putting things like flights of these other people that were now our employees on my account as well, flying them in for events and stuff like that. So just doing stuff like that. Again, it was, with her spending money in other ways, which at the time she was claiming it's her personal money, and she didn't want to use her personal money. She wanted to use the trust money moving forward. So she just had me keep track of these things. Long story short, the day came for payroll to start. Again, that day came, and when I reached out, it was the first time she kind of gaslit me on some things that weren't true. And within a moment, I felt something within me that was like, "Oh no," like, "Oh no." And then responded about like, "Hey, these things were said. I just want to make sure we're on the same page." And I became really curious of like, "Hey, is this?" And then with that simple question, is like, "Is this actually your money that you have access to, or is it somebody else's? If it is somebody else's, what do I need to do to move this forward? Do I need to build a portfolio? Because up until this point, you wanted to invest in me. I wasn't seeking an investor. Do I need to build a portfolio showing what we make, showing what I make, showing what I've been doing these last few years with my company? Because I'd be more than happy to. The company does well. I was very confident in whoever I showed this type of work to. And she got more distant, less responsive. I then told her I would love for my financial advisor to be in this meeting that was supposed to be happening with her trust. And I had another friend of mine who I just wanted on the meeting, my ex-partner, Steph, actually, because she really helped me in many ways with my business. And she was really reluctant to having these people be in the meeting, which I thought was kind of strange.
Mhm.
Again, less feedback, less answering, more distant. I then had this immediate feeling like this is something's wrong. This isn't, yeah, it was in my gut. And I was like, I don't think this is real. I have no idea. And I couldn't really make sense of it because what would she gain out of it? You know, like how was she conning me if she came in and spent quite a bit of money? And so then, but during this process of figuring this out, this immediate voice came through and it was like, Justin, like if this person wasn't in a space to financially support your vision and what you're doing with Nirvana, would you work with them? Would you actually work with them at this point? And it was a hard no. It was a real hard no. Like, you know what? This person doesn't align with me, the way they're acting, the way they're operating now. I started seeing some more of their true colors, even if they were legit or not. I all of a sudden had a deep feeling of like, it was a hard no, and it was immediate no. So I hit up Jake at the time and my team. I told them what I was feeling for one, and then also this voice that came through, and they all were like, yeah, you know what, we back you, we agree, we'll figure this out. So in the midst of trying to, you know, set up this trust meeting, trying to essentially have these conversations where what she was saying, what she was gaslighting with, and trying to like have these conversations of like, no, this was true versus this wasn't true. It was like one of those things. Yeah, it became very like just, it was going nowhere. I then was like, hey, listen, we're going to go in a different direction. I was just like, just cut it straight. And I go, we're no longer going to require your services. I think that we have to move forward. We're really put in a tight situation now because as of right now, these promises were made. They have not come through. There's 3 people right now that it seems like I'm very much responsible for now, and Jake's responsible for now. And I personally don't know how we're going to do this, but we have to figure this out. We're going to move forward without you. And within moments of sending that, within seconds of sending that message, because she wouldn't have a phone call, she goes, okay, well, that's fine. If you choose to go in that direction, I'm going to need a refund for the money that she spent, which came out to like something around, I would say all said and done, around like $20,000, maybe $20,000 plus dollars, all said and done with the event that she offered to support and the camera gear that she did. I responded, letting her know that no one asked her to do those things at the time. She wanted to invest those things, and that it's not our responsibility. If she wanted the camera, she could just have the camera stuff back. I'm like, if you want the camera stuff back, you can hit up our camera guy who you went and took him to the store and bought these things for. That's something you could choose to do. And then within a moment, she went from asking from $20,000. She's like, well, if you just give me $13,000, then we'll call it even. And I was like, that's so strange. Like, why would she, within moments? And then I said, no, hey, listen, we're not going to pay you any money. In fact, I feel it's kind of interesting that you're asking us for money when, you know, we're the ones put in this tight situation based off your promises. And within moments, she dropped it from 13 to 7. She's like, okay, I'll take 7. And then I said no again. And then she dropped it to 5. And I said no. And then she dropped it to 3. And then I just like left it alone. And I realized like, wow, so she must be using somebody else's money that she's also working to purchase these things, to love bomb, to then eventually self-sabotage to sabotage the relationship, to then get us to pay her money like via cash or PayPal or Venmo or what have you. Yeah, really fascinating stuff to make, you know, in a turnaround in 6 weeks, she can make like 13 grand or she can make like 10 grand based off of buying stuff through other people's expenses. Yeah, so all said and done, though, we were put in a really powerful situation with these 3 now people who have quit their jobs, worked for 2 months for Nirvana. The money that we put on my account for equipment that we wouldn't have bought, stuff like that. So a really powerful situation that I was put into about 4 months ago. Long, interesting story.
Just a quick one for 30 seconds. I really hope you're loving this episode. And if you enjoy conversations like this around self-exploration, diving into some of the deeper meanings of life and what it is to be human, then I would like to invite you to a group call that I host every single Thursday completely for free. It's called Finding Freedom. And in those conversations, we dive into different themes and topics around consciousness, spirituality, why we show up the way that we do, some of the difficulties that we can experience whilst on this spiritual path or this path of deeper exploration. So if that calls out to you, hit the link in the description or the show notes, and you can register to join that call. And it's just a beautiful space for like-minded people to get together and share some of this journey of self-exploration. All right, that's it from me. Let's get back into it. Oh, wow, man. First of all, holy shit.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
wild. I was not expecting that turn of events. And
yeah.
it's funny, and I'll get into this with you after. Like, as you were saying it, I was like, no way, because I've been looking at something very similar, a property, looking for an investor, like that kind of thing for like retreats.
Hmm.
So as you're saying it all, I'm like, the alignment. Wow. I'm like, I'm in, I'm fully listening, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I can't wait till I hear it all and then say to you, hey, dude, I've been like doing similar things. And then that was like this sharp left turn. And
Oof. It was powerful. You know, it was absolutely wild because such good people were involved in all of this, and you know, we only really announced when it happened because you know we it wasn't like we didn't think that it was true in any ways. Like she did some this person did some really powerful things. Like, you know, my previous partner Steph, she's also the nutritionist that we represent on Nirvana on the website that we send a lot of people to. And Steph has these really great challenges she does quarterly of the year, and just things like she reached out even to Steph and said she would wanted to sponsor Steph's challenge as well. So Steph upped her challenge prize as well. Um, you know, up to $10,000. You know, so that Steph also had to eat that once this came to fruition. Jake even reached out at one point, you know, to see what is all included with her investing in Nirvana. Does that include our education? Does that include certifications? I knew that Jake really wanted to expand his education with breath work, so he was going to be doing a course, a certification. Um, and she said yes, but did the same thing. Like, hey, until the trust comes through, you can just go ahead and yeah, put it on your own tab, so to speak, and I'll reimburse you. We'll keep track of these things. And I had our operations manager that we hired full time and had them quit their job, keep track of all these things. You know, so everything felt good. Everything felt legit. She duped my my financial advisor. She duped the realtor. Like we were looking at houses, like two houses a day for like 2 or 3 weeks, like filling out paperwork. She was sending me images of land to buy. Really, really, really wild stuff. And so essentially, though, you know, the next morning I wake up realizing what had happened, realizing the financial space that she really put me in, and what could I learn from it is really where this kind of story goes. Like, you know, there's all of this stuff that I just talked about, and the real lesson though is how I handled this space. And at first I asked why. I thought I took it personally, and there was a part of me that wanted to close, a part of me that wanted to contract. And I woke up in the morning and I like went through that whole why, and then a voice came through. It goes, well, does it change anything? Does it change who you are? And the answer was no, of course not. I'm like, no. And I was like, okay then. I was like, okay. And then I realized that there really is no good or bad. There's just things that may feel uncomfortable. And there's always something within these lessons or experiences that will allow us to grow in substantial ways. Um, and I really think that, you know, I do see Nirvana growing in the exact same way that it is, but I think it would have probably taken longer the way I was doing it before I met this person, so to speak. And it put me in obviously a very, very uncomfortable situation. But it also, with that uncomfortable situation, it allowed me to kind of go through that space um, and use my tools and my practices in such a way and learn new tools and practices that have allowed me in so many ways since then with the people I work with. It like gave me the experience to be an even better coach, to be an even better mentor, um, to grow and expand, and in such a loving way too. Like as I mentioned, you can really close during these moments. You can take it personally. You could become rigid or upset and stay in that space, and you can choose love and expand. Um, you can choose to forgive, choose to move through it. What was really fascinating is a lot of people live in scarcity, and a lot of people live in fear. And this in many ways was a very profound space for me for the first time to be in, I would say, a financial scarcity because of everything that happened, becoming so responsible for all of these things, all of these people, and wondering like, how am I going to do this? And so there was a real trigger, so to speak. And and then usually if there's a trigger, there's a behavior that follows. And it was the first time I ever got caught in this powerful behavior of worry. And it was so hard to catch because it's a mental behavior, it's not a physical behavior. And this mental behavior of worry got me for about 3 weeks. It was a really powerful behavior that took me for about 3 weeks. So it was the first time that I had trouble sleeping. It was the first time where I was woken up by it. It took me out of my training. It was incredibly hard to do my practices. I stopped without realizing it. I stopped um, like drinking water almost, because it was consuming me. Sitting in the sun, grounding, doing just like my modalities that kept me at a high vibration. And I was just consistently worrying. And not only that, I was operating from that space with my posts. I was operating from that space trying to get work. And I never tried to get work before. Work just came to me because I'm of service. So like it was interesting trying to get clients from a place of scarcity, which I have never done, and I highly don't recommend because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so, and not only that, the unique type of intrusive thoughts that came through when I was operating in this place of fear and low vibration were very interesting. They were incredibly powerful, incredibly negative, and I would even go as far as to say that they weren't even mine. There was something else that was coming through, something far more dark that was coming through. And it was so dark, I was able to actually recognize that it wasn't mine, that they weren't my thoughts. It was almost like a spiritual warfare, to be honest. And I know that can sound pretty woo woo for maybe some of the listeners, but when you are in a low vibrational state, you are definitely susceptible to certain things. Um, outside forces, I would definitely say. And actually, that really allowed me to catch what was kind of going on, to kind of almost pull myself out because they were so intrusive. They were so like just like not me in any way. Yeah, I was able to see it. I was like, whoa, that is not me. This isn't who I am. Like these thoughts, it made me want to get small. It made me want to quit. It was coming up with all these thoughts, and yeah, it was really fascinating to see it. Um, and so I was able to take a step back for a moment. And what allowed me to take a step back though was um, the art of a mantra, art like the practice of mantras. So the breath work was doing okay, but it really wasn't getting me out of it, so to speak. And so I for whatever reason, started getting into a mantra when this fear would take over of me of how I'm going to do this and all these intrusive thoughts. And so I got into this mantra: I am at peace, I fully trust, and I fully allow. And I kept getting into it over and over. I'm at peace, and I felt the energy start to release out of my body and bring me back into my present space, loving awareness. I am at peace, I fully trust, and I fully allow. And I started getting into this on a very, very deep level, and I was able to actually pull out of this mental fear-based mind movie that was trapping me for about 3 weeks, that was keeping me from sleeping, that was waking me up, that was pulling me from every present moment possible.
It feels like in all of this, there was this amazing opportunity for you to actually get the first-hand experience of what so many people exist like, where
Hmm.
really it is hellish, and it is this almost this unconsciousness that arises, which isn't personal to you. It's kind of the unconsciousness of humanity that can enter into all of us. And I
Hmm.
personally think the thing you're describing is what's depicted as the angel and the devil on either shoulder,
Yeah.
where those things do appear for us. And in those moments where it's like there's that moment of weakness, there's that chink in the armor, and it can get in.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you can get all consumed by it. And what an amazing opportunity for you to actually to live that,
Yeah.
to notice it, and to pull yourself out of it. I mean, there's a saying I like, which is information doesn't cover the cost of admission into
Yeah.
higher levels of consciousness. And it's not just understanding it, you've actually got to be able to do it. And in you
Hmm.
doing that and realizing, wow, okay, like you've really experienced that, because it feels like a force.
Yes.
It feels
Yeah.
like an actual force, doesn't it? So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe there was something in all of
Yeah.
this which is actually a beautiful gift.
Hmm.
Um, that's what I'm getting from it, man. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I see it too. I learned there were so many beautiful gems in this. It was like one, learning the power of mantra. Two, going through this unique space to have a better understanding of what a lot of individuals are working through each and every day, which is very, very important with the work that I do. Um, Another thing I learned, which was really cool, is with that mantra, I'm at peace, I fully trust, I fully allow, I was able to take a step back. And this was really kind of cool, um, was to see what I do actually have control over, right? Okay, so I can do X, Y, and Z today from a loving space. Outside of that, I have to fully trust and fully allow. And so if I have to, as far as work wise, post this, post that, handle this, that's all I can do with my work today. Okay, to financially to financially be with my goals, with my financial goals. And then what else can I do outside that space besides sitting in the behavior or the mind movie of worry, which doesn't serve you at all. In fact, it brings you to that lower vibration again. And so I realized, like, if I sit in that space and I'm worrying all day about what if, which is where a lot of people hang out when they fall into this behavior, it only is going to create more anxiety and then more worry, and you get caught in that cyclical loop, which is where I was for like the 3 weeks, where I feel a lot of people are. So there's the trigger, the behavior, the result, and so a lot of people become triggered. That trigger leads to the behavior of worry. That behavior of worry, which doesn't actually solve anything, leads into the result of anxiety, back to worry, back to anxiety, back to worry. And so I was able to catch that, step outside of it, and realize, like, well, in the space that I have, that I'm not doing anything with my work, what can I do? And it's to make sure that I am vibrating at the highest level. And so I was like, oh, get back into your modalities, Justin. Go sit in the sun. Go put your feet on the grass. Be practicing your gratitude. Get into your journaling. Do your yoga. Train hard. Do all the things that you know that you should be doing, as opposed to worrying about the what if, the things that you do not have control over all day long. And as soon as I did that, everything energetically again really shifted very quickly. Again, just like, it's really cool to kind of see the practices and how they truly work when you are tested. And again, like, I think this was such a great lesson for me, because this is what I now like really showing people, and I tell the story to all my clients, actually, this whole story, so they can really understand like what truly works with the mantra, with doing the practices in your free time. And sometimes it's hard to go sit in the sun when you have this worry, when you have this fear, right? But that's actually the best thing that you could do, is eating healthy, taking good care of your body, getting in the sun, being fully present, talking to source, what have you. That was really powerful. And also the law of detachment is something that I learned. There were such strong intentions during this 8-week span, that we were being love bombed. And from that, I saw all these visions, how it was happening, the way it was happening at such an intricate level. These intentions were filled with so much loving emotion and excitement. And when they all came crashing down, every single one of them essentially came crashing down in such a powerful way. I had to really utilize the law of detachment. It doesn't mean that they're not going to happen, but they're not happening in the timeline that I was intending them for them to happen, the time frame, and really working with that law of detachment allowed me to be okay with what is in such a powerful way. Attachment to things can be really hard, especially when they get ripped from you. So that was a really powerful tool that I teach a lot of my people as well. It was like there was a lot of beautiful gems that allowed me to learn and really put to work and to practice and know on such a visceral level that allowed me to I mean, I became immediately a better mentor, a better coach, a better person from this powerful experience that I do not see as bad in any way, just challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the gifts that are wrapped up in that are pretty profound.
Hmm.
And you know, and one actually is praying for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent her love. The next day I sent that person love. You know, I
Yeah.
understand that it's not personal. I understand that they're unconscious and very much asleep. And, you know, whatever it is that they went through, put them in this space of the way that they interact with themselves and the world. I also
Mm,
learned a valuable lesson of discernment. Discernment
yeah.
was a big one that I learned through all of this as well. Beautiful, wonderful lessons, you know. Yeah, really good stuff.
It sounds quite akin to a limerent relationship where people first get into relationships and actually there's this limerence and this excitement about all the possibility of what could be. And in some ways, it actually activates the feeling of it's the possibility of possibilities. So we do feel the excitement. We
Hmm.
start to think in a bigger way. And actually, we do step into a paradigm which is way more expansive.
Hmm.
And actually, it is real. And all those feelings that you felt during that time,
Are real. Yeah.
it's actually real, and we can actually access that. And
Yep.
it's interesting when we think the way it's meant to happen now gets pulled, sometimes we can then collapse the entire belief
Yes.
that it
Yes.
can happen with. So we're kind of conflating the possibility of possibilities with the way it has to happen.
Yeah.
And actually, it's like, oh no, like, okay, that way is no longer happening. Now, if we were to really venture into all the possibility of what is, how do we still keep this alive with the same level of excitement, enthusiasm, and
Yeah.
because it's a paradigm. And you know what you said about when we drop into those lower levels, when we're in that state of vibration, the quality of our thought and solution is so low. It's like we're the ship is still sinking.
Mm.
And to your point, taking that time to be in the sun, to do the practices, to ground, all of a sudden now, when that state starts to rise, we actually start to leave the paradigm of thinking where the problem exists. And it's what Einstein said, isn't it? About
Mm.
you can never solve a problem from the same paradigm in which it was created.
Mm.
And I think that's when we can see these quantum leaps, when we actually go into that paradigm of you know, a big part of your message of love. When we're in that, now what possibilities are at hand? Because those possibilities almost can't be seen when we're in the state of fear and worry and stress and anxiety. It's
Yeah.
literally like we're in the storm and there's no sun to be found.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of beautiful gems in all of this. Um, and it's wild that it was only such a short time ago, I would definitely say.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of big changes, but I think it really, like you said, it really showed, and it doesn't take away that magic that we were feeling for that 8 weeks. And that's something that I recognized as well right away. And like not being attached to those things is really powerful, and keeping that magic, that energy, and that vision, and seeing the possibilities is still very much there. I'm just excited to see what path that is.
Mm.
And it's like it was wild too, because during that time, I'm definitely into the uh, the support from entities and people, even when people don't know they're supporting you. Like I had people that would randomly just come up to me and just be like, "Hey man, I just want to let you know, like you're doing really great work. You're doing really great work. Like, don't ever get small." Just something random like that
Mhm.
during that time. And I was just like, wow, who the fuck's speaking through you right now? Like, just sending me some love. I had like I remember when I'd be really kind of lost in it, all of a sudden I would get a random call from a friend, random out of the blue. And they're like, "Hey, Justin, for whatever reason you popped in my mind. How are you doing right now?"
Mm.
And I'm like, "Oh, this is interesting." So I was definitely being taken care of in really powerful ways, lots of loving ways, and such good people on the team too. That really allowed us to work with them in really healthy ways to make sure they're okay
Mm.
and make sure everybody turned out okay. So it was really beautiful. Yeah, a lot of beautiful support that came through from our team, and we're still working together in really great ways to see where this can really lead. And we're all very much aligned, and we love the work that Nirvana does on every level. Like we really are of service, and we really love helping people, and um, we're okay with all of this, and I've grown substantially from it.
Yeah, like I think just that energy that everyone was feeling, that excitement, those high levels of frequencies. If the whole team just enter back into that field, because it is like a field of energy, isn't it?
Hmm.
If everyone's entered back into that field, I something tells me like all the things that were like visualized to be a
Hmm.
possibility could all still just like happen and at an exponential rate. Like I've seen so much magic unfold this year
Hmm.
where literally my thoughts have been, how is this even happening? Where some things have happened to the minute of when they had to happen, like on the minute.
Mm.
And after I'm like, what's going on? This is
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, yeah. I think really, falling into that, I am at peace, I fully trust, and I fully allow was such a
Mm,
powerful, powerful mantra that came through for me. It literally eradicated all the fear. It's one of the ones that I've been teaching my clients ever since. It's been really powerful. Also, like, just getting so good about observing, the self, even in a more profound way, because that's my thing. Like my big thing with my clients is teaching them that, you have thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. You have a mind, but you are not your mind. And so, obviously, you are not your triggers either, or the experiences that happen to you. So, can you sit in that observer seat, or do you get pulled into these spaces, and do you
mm,
become reactive in these spaces? And are you aware of the results, or the outcomes of those reactions? And this has allowed me to also step into such a fucking powerful space of awareness with my observations of things. It's really kind of neat. Like, um, that definitely pulled me in such a space of intense worry and fear. But since having the ability to go through that, use the tools and practices to manage it and step outside of it, and give it love and nurture it through all these unique ways. Um, it's almost going to be impossible, I feel, in many ways, to kind of like get me to that space again. And
yeah.
it really allows me to, um, man, it's funny. It's like, I was always really great about my practices, but now it's like they're even more special. They're
Mm,
even more special now. Like practicing gratitude is so much fucking fun. I do it now just seemingly like through my day, um, before bed at night, like all the things, and it just keeps me in this space, consistently communicating with that love,
Mm.
Whether it's sitting in the sun, it's not just sitting in the sun, it's communicating with the sun. It's just not putting my feet on the grass, it's communicating with the grass. Just fully being here, speaking profoundly into the universe in so many ways. Um, yeah, I'm excited to what's to come, and more people keep coming into my life in really great ways, and opportunities are rising in each and every way. And man, I'm just excited. But just really great stuff for allowed me to be a better coach, a better teacher, a better leader. And yeah, there are no bad experiences. It's cool is to understand reality is reality, and
Mm.
to resist reality is when we truly feel divisiveness within ourselves. And so I've become really at peace with what is. It's also allowed me to really have powerful perspective on things, knowing where people can come from. Where I really also found strength was through Jesus. Jesus, you look at like what he went through, right? Jesus is the goat, of course. And like,
I was literally about to quote him.
yeah, he is like he just like what he faced obviously is tenfold of what people could even comprehend of facing. And the fact that he was always able to keep his heart open, because that was also a big thing for me. That's what I've always been preaching since day one is like, I think the test here, so to speak, over and over again is the ability to keep one's heart open
Mm.
during all of our experiences, especially the tough ones, not just like
Yeah.
the fun ones and great ones and loving ones. And I've been able to really do that in really wonderful ways throughout my life, through hardships, through relationships ending, through all types of things. And I've been tested in really powerful ways, of course, but this was a really powerful test.
Mm.
Um, and I was able to keep my heart open and expand again and expand again. And it's just been so nice because that's such a gift. Like these hardships are such a gift for expansion and for crazy amounts of growth. So I'm very grateful for them, even though it was very uncomfortable, and put me in a place of unknown. I could fully accept it and be excited for it and love the shit out of it.
Yeah. The thing that comes to my mind so often, and I guess it's when I said about praying for her, but it's forgive them for they know not what they do.
Mm.
And, that was one of the most powerful things Jesus said. He's basically
Yep.
praying for forgiveness for his murderers,
Hmm.
effectively. And that is coming from one, the highest degree of presence and being able to stay in the place of, I can observe the unconsciousness of these people.
Yes. Yes.
And because they are acting from unconsciousness, I can still love them because I'm able to hold all of their humanity. And I'm not cutting parts off and exiling it and saying that shouldn't exist. It's like, this is their unconsciousness. And the moment
Y-
I condemn them, I am now entering into the field of unconsciousness with them.
Yes. 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 And what's great is I was tested on that because that's what I was always preaching. That was like literally every person that came to me, whether they were wronged by their partner cheated on them, or when people really go through some horrible, horrible things, like rape, or being abused in such profound ways, or being taken advantage of in such profound ways, death, all that kind of stuff. This was always still the answer. Is like, can we forgive them? Can we love the unconscious? And this was a true test in many ways, and to truly love them, to truly open to them, it is really powerful. And like I said, like Jesus was such a great tool for me, a great leader, for me to look at and see. And even how he washed Judas's feet, knowing that he betrayed him. And it's like, wow, like, okay. And I even looked at my mom. My mom came from such a powerful, hard, powerful experiences, very unsafe as a child, didn't have a safe family, and had three babies by the time she was 23. I was a middle child, and no safe men in her life. And I even just was able to see how my mom was able to stay so strong and keep her heart open with her children and stay that loving force. And so, like, I would look at my mom in this circumstance and see how powerful this 5 foot woman, like 5 feet tall, 100 pounds soaking wet, in a world where she didn't even have family, she didn't have a good man, um, had nowhere to go, and we had 3 babies with her, and how she was able to stay so strong and so loving, and stay in love. And yeah, my mom was also a very, very strong force that I became very aware of um, during this space. So yeah, I was able to pull strength from some very powerful people.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's funny because as someone who wasn't raised Christian, from a Christian background,
Mm,
I just look to so many of the teachings from Jesus now. And for me, Jesus was, I guess, the represents the embodiment of love. When we say what would Christ do, I think sometimes we could say also what would love do.
mm,
And I think it's actually the same answer.
mm. I agree. Yeah,
What would love do in that moment? And love wouldn't start hating. Love would love.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just had a conversation with one of my clients. He was falling into judgment, and he's been suffering from that. And I'm like, as soon as you stop judging, you'll stop suffering. And I fell into that too at one point a couple of years back. And then once I realized everything is God, everything is love, it's just some parts of it are unconscious, and I'm able to see the love within that person. If I could see through the unconsciousness to the consciousness and love that person, and see through it, that's how we actually make the big shifts, right? That's how we're able to actually create change, is by seeing the love through that. And that's really powerful. And it's something that I'm really happy I was able to do. I was really proud of myself too. Like I realized like I was really proud of how I was able to work through this, how I was able to love that person. No joke. Like the next day I was like, I forgave that person. Um, so that was really cool. And I was really happy how I was able to work through that fear and use my practices, and they work. So I was really, really pumped about that.
Yeah, and it's real, and you should be proud because actually it's a celebration for the force of good.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah. Yeah.
proud and recognizing it is that was like good triumphs, and by that
Mm.
it's not you good over her other. It's
Yeah.
within.
Yeah.
It's the good
Yeah.
within triumphed over the darkness within,
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
that's something to celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and it's so funny. A few people even said, and again, this is maybe far out for some listeners, but some few people definitely says, like, Justin, when you are leading with a lot of light, you do have to have discernment, because there is darkness that can try to infiltrate, that can try to come through, and I didn't really understand that at first. But now I do. So discernment was a really powerful tool, and it's not to close, but it's just to be more aware that there is, I think, some type of spiritual warfare that is happening, that has been happening for a long time here. And when you do start vibrating at a very powerful light, you do attract a lot of that. And it's not um, to avoid it, and or not give it your love, but just to be aware of it. And that was really, really powerful for me too. I was always so open, which is great, but just letting everybody in all the time, and it's into my home. And there's, now looking back, there's been a few times where it's like, hey, Justin, you could just be a little bit smarter with things, a little bit more aware, have a little bit more discernment with stuff. Yeah. Because they say too, it's like a lot of times, like when you are doing this type of work, when you are leading with love and light, and you're working with a lot of people in their shadows, it's good to just have this awareness. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
sometimes I think people are mindful of not wanting to feel like they're judging others, and I mentioned this recently. There's a difference between judging and observing,
Mm, hmm.
and discernment comes out of observation.
Hmm.
And it's like it's not necessarily judging the other, but it's I can see there's some shadow here, and also I can hold their shadow. I can hold all of them and their shadow
Yeah,
and love all of it, but I can also then discern maybe it's not the best like relationship or dynamic that I want to get
yeah,
into.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
from rejecting, but of just okay. is it actually a good energetic fit? And I don't think it is, but still, it can be all love. And that's just the
Yeah.
observation discernment.
Yeah. So yeah, that was another big lesson. Yeah. I had a really great, like a bunch of great lessons here. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
been really cool. Yeah. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I've been really sitting with recently, because I've been studying with Dr. Mark Gaffney, and I was in Vermont with him, and then I was in Belgium with him a couple of weeks ago. And he was really talking about line and circle, and how masculine and feminine, actually, before masculine and feminine, it was built on line and circle, and how what we'd consider masculine energy, beneath that is line energy. And he talks about all the characteristics of line, and that feminine is circle energy, and all the characteristics of circle, but also all the characteristics both in their light and shadow, and how they can show up.
Mm.
And part of the nature of line energy is to penetrate. And in the engendered version, we literally see that as like phallic is to penetrate, and in the engendered version of the feminine, it would be circle, to receive.
Mm.
But outside of the gender version, just in the nature of line, before there was gender, there was still line energy. And one of the things is to penetrate. That's the nature of line. And it's only through penetration that we can really start to discern. So if we just see something on the surface level, how much discernment can we do? So our ability to
Mm.
actually penetrate deeply into something, we can then start to discern and pull things out of it. And I noticed that's one of the things that probably one of my strongest points within line energy is I have a desire to penetrate. Um, but because I want to understand the complexity, and actually in doing that, that's how you can create new ideas, or you can find something within it that maybe no one else has found before.
Yeah.
So I really have this draw to penetrate deeply into something and then to start to discern. And what I've noticed is part of my how that actually then reflects to circle, because we all have line and circle energy, and actually we all are unique configurations of line and circle. So the line qualities I have and the circle qualities I have can't be exactly the same as anyone else's.
Mm.
um and from that place you almost go, well, yeah, there is no masculine, like I'm masculine, well, actually no, of course I'm going to have circle energy things, like the ability to hold someone in their entirety actually is circle energy,
Mm.
which we might say is feminine, but actually if we get rid of male and feminine, because they're so tied to male female, where we think one's meant to be like man's meant to be masculine. No, you like all of us have line and circle energy. And one of the things that I've noticed is the more I line, the more I penetrate into something to understand it, actually the greater my circle can become, and I actually have a greater ability to hold someone in their entirety if I penetrate into their understanding their behavior and where
Mm.
things have come from. The more I line into it, the more I can then hold them and love them, because I now understand where it came from, why they do it. But if we only ever stay on the surface, we can actually then the shadow of the line, if we don't penetrate, it's just to cut off that person. That's another part of the line, is to just chop off, is to divide
Mm. Mhm.
and to
Mhm.
judge. But the light of the line quality is, rather than just cut off and judge, is to penetrate deeper and understand.
I understand it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
That's
you're
great.
welcome, brother.
Yeah.
We literally spent 5 full days, like full days, just going into the nature of line and circle. And it was like, there were some days like 12-hour days.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so here we are. Yeah, so here we are. New space. I moved as well. I moved downtown Austin, or south of Austin. I was up north, which is great because I'm closer to the community, which is something I really wanted to get into, being closer to the community, being more connected with the people here in Austin. And that's been really wonderful. Been here in this new space for about a month and a couple weeks now. Um, yeah, so yeah, lots of good stuff.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that story. I think, it's so great to share real life examples for people to actually anchor into, because it's not you just talking about concepts. Actually,
Mm,
again, to quote Mark, life isn't a series of facts, life is story. And
mm,
actually, we really only care when stories involved. It's why we love films. And for you to actually share that lived story, people, it's not just saying like, here's an idea. No, you've actually lived it. And there's so
Mm,
much more weight in that. So, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think there's an amazing learning opportunity for people that are listening to see how, when they can actually reflect back and say, oh shit, like I feel that, or that comes up for me. And yeah, I sometimes get lost in that. And just
mm,
hearing you share how you came out the other side of it and back into the light
mm.
is a beautiful gift to share. So thank you.
Yeah, man, it's something like I said, like I really think it was something that was a gift, even though it was really uncomfortable and it put me in a space for a little bit. All said and done, it really has given me some wonderful experiences. And when I do share this story, it's funny. I wish I could fast track the story, so to speak, because there's so many things. But like the lessons is really the bread and butter of all of it. Like, but I guess people have to understand the real fear of what went down. But yeah, I think like as you mentioned, like the fact that people can, I think having people be able to relate with you too is powerful. I realized too there was a bit of sometimes I learned that some people thought that I didn't experience like hard times even,
Mm,
which was interesting, which is completely the opposite. I mean, even my childhood was very abusive and stuff like that. But there's a big part of me that was able to kind of go through life in such a unique way of staying in love. And I did this kind of on autopilot, which I'm very lucky to do, very blessed to do.
mm,
Um, and, like kind of experiencing hard times as an adult with this level of awareness, it actually made it almost more difficult. Like how I kind of naturally go about life on autopilot and without awareness is from a place of authentic love. It's like I'm almost like
mm,
almost like a dog. You know what I mean? Like I just like I consistently was always. I'm very lucky that I have a very good heart, a full heart. Um, but as I became more aware of self through these last 10 years, that's when I actually started in some ways suffering for the first time, if that
mm.
makes sense. And, and having these moments and going through these moments have been just really good for me. As I said, like this really just has improved my ability to work with so many great people now and relate with them on powerful levels, even though I've had those other past experiences. Um, just be able to, I think, really feel it on such a level as opposed to going through it like without awareness. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but um,
Yeah,
like yeah, it's like
it feels like
you know,
you have more context for the lived
yes,
experience of it.
yeah, you know. I always try to explain how my mind really worked, how I personally worked before some deep levels of awareness. I live myopically almost to a fault in the present moment,
Mm,
and especially all the way up until the age of 30. Like I never ever thought about the past or the future at all, and I still don't think about the past at all, to be honest. And I this was like the first time I got pushed into the future of the what if, of the unknown in many ways. And so like that's kind of like how I even got into this work. I became very, very aware at age 30 through a DMT experience. An entity came through and told me like, people are really suffering. People are really suffering from the mind. And that really actually at the time really shocked me because I didn't have the awareness because I was so myopically present in my own little happy, present, loving world, which is great, which is beautiful. I never lost that presence, even due to tough experiences. I never lost it. But there was a part of me that really did lack awareness of how most people were kind of operating in this world and truly suffering. And so at age 30, this beautiful being let me know this. And at the time, I was really, really shocked that people were suffering from their mind. And
mm,
so that's what really kind of got me curious as to why I wasn't suffering from the mind and why were others suffering from the mind. It was because they didn't exist in the present moment.
mm.
And so that kind of got me into my work 10 years ago. It's like, well, how can I help people become more present? And at first I thought it was like, deep, beautiful conversations about things, which definitely is powerful. But the modalities like breath work and meditation and grounding and sunbathing has really allowed, it's just really cool how everything has really unfolded with my journey and with the work that I do. Um, I can't be more excited to see what comes.
Amazing, man. Just to reflect something back there, there's three things that came up. One, you said about you wish you could fast track the story to get to the lessons, but actually the story is the lesson.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's true.
absolutely is. Like the story is what makes it matter because it's
Mm,
real, it's lived. That was one thing. Another thing you said about how the suffering started to begin when you like kind of identified as the self. And
mm,
I had in my last ayahuasca journey, I felt no no need to purge when I was like in this spirit realm. And then there's moments where I'd start to come out of it and I'd start to realize I was like a self. And actually, every time I started to identify as me, I wanted to purge. And then if
mm.
I let go of the idea of me again, the want to purge went away. So I thought that was really interesting how it
Wow.
tied in like identifying as me made me want to throw up, and if I then let go of it, I was fine again.
Mm.
um and the third thing, I forgot what I was going to say. there was a third thing there that I was going to reflect back. You just said something, I was like, oh, there was a thing that felt relevant, but it's gone. It's
It's
gone.
all right.
Yeah.
Another podcast, another day.
Absolutely, man. Brother, thank you so much for being here and sharing that. Is a beautiful story, and the way that you've handled it. And, you are the embodiment of the thing that you're talking about. And the memories just come back of what I was going to say. This year I did Eckhart Tolle's program on becoming a teacher of presence.
Mm.
And when you said there, sometimes we can have it through conversation, it can be breath work. But the thing that he said, and I feel it to be true, and I see it in you, is the best way to teach presence is by being present.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, when you are present, and I think, and I do get this from you, it radiates that actually you can have a conversation with someone and it brings them into presence because you in your presence actually opens a portal for them to enter into that field with you. So.
I love that, man. I love that you just said that because that's what I would say. Presence is a portal for loving awareness to come through. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Very dope. Yeah, that's cool.
Brother, where can people find you?
I think Instagram is the best way to find me, but also the website, nirvanamindbody.com. We've really built a beautiful community with Nirvana Nation and stuff like that. Check out the website. But yeah, IG is a really great place to find me and all of what I'm talking about and what I'm sharing and stuff. So yeah, those are the two best locations.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
Hey man, thanks for having me on.